Hey all, welcome to Monday, welcome to Countdown Day, and we're going to kind of follow up from last week's list. Last week's list was an extremely active list. Some I agreed with, some I didn't agree with, and it was 10 times basically that the Autobots done something bad, right? It was like the top 10 worst things the Autobots have done, because they're not always the good guys, right? Well, following on from that was, what about 10 times when the Decepticons were doing something good, or even heroic? And that leads us to what we have now. Previously, we did the top 10 most heroic Decepticons. That was focused on individual bots who kind of turned their tide around, right? Dinobot, for example. And there have been a number that have like defected sides and whatnot. This one is based on actual actions. This is the top 10 times that the Decepticons, whether as a group or an individual Decepticon, did something good or something heroic. That's our focus this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share. Of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, light them up, baby. Hit that notification bell. It helps me out a ton. It lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that's in the description down below, also in the description down below. And if you happen to be in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. So yeah, the top 10 times that the Decepticons were doing something good or heroic, right? 10 times that basically they were the good guys. This round of voting, I am actually pleased to say, is one that was very challenging for me. Because a lot of times we will have a slant toward G1 cartoon. But this time, it came from everywhere. We had votes from Prime, from various comic book continuities that I really don't know. From Unicron trilogy. Again, I really don't know. So if I kind of gloss certain facts, or I'm a little jumbled on certain facts, you know what? Just roll with it. We all know how I feel about the comic books. We all know how I feel about Unicron trilogy. I'm not going to retain it, so it's based on what the fans relayed to me. Our honorable mentions include, but are not limited to, Dinobot and his defection from the Predacons to the Maximals, right? Kind of being like, I don't believe in what, you know, Megatron is doing here and stuff. And that would still count, because Predacons are a descendant of Decepticons. Starscream saves Christmas. So apparently there's an old comic book where Starscream saves like a bus of senior citizens or some such thing, or a van full of old people or something, and basically like saves Christmas. Who would think that Starscream would ever save Christmas? What else do we have here? How about when Cyberverse Soundwave sacrificed himself to stop Tarn and the Perfect Decepticons? Those are the three honorable mentions. Dinobot's defection, Cyberverse Soundwave's sacrifice to stop Tarn and the Perfect Decepticons, and Starscream saving Christmas. They all had votes. None of them had enough. You know what we're going to do? We're going to now go to that list. We're going to do as we always do, and we're going to kick things off with who did rank at number 10 first. Number 10 takes us to The Revenge of Bruticus, and kind of this guy really, because he sort of led the charge. So, long story short, in The Revenge of Bruticus, Starscream sort of tricks the Combaticons into like thinking they're being attacked and stuff by Shockwave. Long story short, feeling very betrayed, Onslaught makes a modification to the space bridge that was designed to pull the Earth into the sun, thereby destroying the Autobots and the Decepticons, because he doesn't like either of them. He kind of learns that, you know what, the Combaticons have been manipulated by Starscream and Shockwave kind of get imprisoned. Then an ultimatum and whatnot is kind of sent to Megatron here, and Megatron doesn't respond well to ultimatums. Anyway, long story short, the Insecticons have chewed up like this control console and whatnot. The Autobots and Optimus offer to help, like Thrust and Ramjet and Megatron and whoever else is part of his squad, to basically go confront Bruticus. We have to stop him, right? You have even Starscream gets in on it, even Shockwave gets in on it. Basically, all of the Autobots, all of the Decepticons kind of unite, realizing Bruticus must be stopped. And in the end, Megatron here agrees, yeah, we're going to dismantle and like destroy Bruticus. He's just too dangerous. And Megatron allows the Autobots to leave unharmed and in peace. Of course, in reality, he was going to just have Bruticus reprogrammed to be loyal only to him. But you know what? As far as the Autobots knew, this guy was being a good guy for once. They had a common enemy. And through some heroics of his own, Megatron and the Decepticons really helped to ensure that Earth didn't get pulled into the sun. Seems pretty heroic to me, and that whole thing takes the number 10 slot. Coming in at number 9, we have he who befriended this little twerp. This is, depending on kind of which masterpiece you have, this is either Spike or it's Daniel. For me, it's Daniel. But number 9 is when Sixshot befriended Daniel. Yeah, I mean, he saw something in Daniel. I don't know if he felt, I don't know, bad for him because his dad wasn't there. Like, I don't remember the whole scenario of it. But I do know that a bond gets forged between Sixshot and Daniel. And we get to see the Decepticon Ninja Six-Changer, Phase Sixer, if you will, in a very different light, where he's not doing combat and he's not out on the battlefield. Instead, he is befriending a kid, and we see like a kinder, gentler side of Sixshot. Maybe, even as a Decepticon, he's not all bad. Sixshot and his friendship with Daniel takes the number 9 slot. Number 8 is Autobot Megatron. Yes, he still has a Decepticon logo here. So we know famously in IDW, well, I don't know famously in IDW, I had to ask about this, but apparently Megatron like surrendered himself and went on trial for all of his misdeeds, and he ends up kind of siding with the Autobots aboard the Lost Light, I think is the name of the ship. I could be wrong about that. I believe he even like finagles his way to being captain and earns the trust of the crew and whatnot, because Megatron really does see the error of his ways. And not for nothing, but turning himself in and becoming an Autobot effectively ended the war, right? So like, how more heroic can you get than to actually be the thing that ended the war? That said, a few people also voted for his post-war good guy iteration from Earthspark. Some people said Autobot Megatron there. It's not, because there aren't Autobots there. They have a different logo on them. I can't remember exactly what they're called now. But Megatron shares that same logo with who were previously the Autobots, right? It's a post-war thing. But yeah, good guy Megatron, whether we're talking about post-war with Earthspark, whether we're talking about to end the war as an IDW, when you take the leader of the bad guys and make him good, and that kind of ends the conflict, that's a gain. Pretty darn heroic if you ask me. Good guy Megatron takes the number 8 slot. Now 8, I kind of put a bunch together because people referred to this exact same idea, but they referred to it for different continuities. But it's any time that the Autobots and the Decepticons get together to battle Unicron. Of course, it's happened in the Unicron trilogy, it happened in the 86 movie, it's happened in the comic books, it's happened in, or I think it's going to happen in the live action movies. I gotta believe that they're headed in that direction, whether you like that or not. But yeah, anytime that the two forces completely go together to battle something much larger, much more nefarious than themselves, yeah, that leads to some grand heroics. Because guess what? As bad as the Decepticons are, ain't nothing quite as bad as Unicron. Working together to battle this behemoth of a planet. Yes sir, that takes the number 7 slot. So we've already had good guy Megatron on the list. What about good guy Galvatron? By way of him working with Optimus Prime to stop the hate plague. So in The Return of Optimus Prime Part 2, Galvatron is kind of discovered by the Autobots, sort of fleeing from his own Decepticons who have been infected by the hate plague. He gets kind of enlisted to help the Autobots. Of course, this is Galvatron, he's out of his mind, right? So like, he's suspicious. When he learns about the alloy to cover Optimus, he kind of like wants to turn on Optimus. He gets coerced into still cooperating with him. Even loads the alloy that's going to be used to coat Optimus to protect him from the plague, I think, into the trailer. And then he gets infected himself. By the end of it, Optimus uses the Matrix to light their darkest hour, and I mean, he's not going to be turned by the plague because he's covered in the alloy, and when everybody is kind of turned back to A-OK, even Galvatron says, there'll be no more fighting today, Optimus Prime, right? Like, you've earned my respect because you saved us all from a plague, basically, right? Galvatron actually helped to make sure that Optimus would have the alloy, and not for nothing, he actually showed gratitude and appreciation when Optimus stopped the hate plague. Those are good personality traits, man. Who would have thought that this guy who's out of his mind, remember Web World? He kind of destroyed that whole asylum and stuff. This dude who's out of his mind showing gratitude and even cooperation? Who would have believed it? Galvatron is a good guy, takes the number 6 slot. And now a hush falls over the crowd because we have reached the ever coveted and ever popular halfway mark. And today at the halfway mark we have the dynamic duo of Optimus Prime and Megatron, specifically when they work together in Countdown to Extinction. And for those of you that don't recall, as I didn't, Countdown to Extinction is the episode where we learn about the Exponential generator, this big powerful energy source, and if it overloaded, according to Dr. Arkeville, it would blow up Earth, and Dr. Arkeville gets really injured, and it's when he gets repaired by like the mechanoids or whatever they're called, and turned like mostly robot back on Cybertron. And Starscream has this whole nefarious plan of like, we're going to use this generator on a timer to blow up Earth, and all of the energy that's released, we're going to harness it and we're going to use it to revitalize Cybertron. Of course, all of the Autobots and Decepticons are still on Earth. Unwilling to follow Starscream, Shockwave contacts Megatron and says, hey, yeah, you might want to stop this, boss. And Megatron, has the whole idea of like, okay, so I got to rip this timer off, and he does that, but the whole generator now is volatile, so he transforms into his pistol mode and says, I need some help from Optimus. So Optimus wields Megatron. They put the generator on the barrel of Megatron's blaster. He fires the generator into space just as it blows up next to Starscream, who's also in space, funny enough. But yes, these two actually working together to save Earth from Starscream. Takes the number 5 slot. Number 4 takes us to the realm of politics. And there were a number of things said here. Some people who gave this vote basically said the acting out against functionalist council. Or they said rising up against a corrupt government. Or they said getting rid of the caste system. Or they said coming out of the gladiatorial arena. The bottom line is this. Regardless if we're talking about the fiction in the novels, or in the comic books, or in Transformers Prime, or wherever, the bottom line is that at number 4 we have, and I'm going to make sure to actually read it exactly like I have it here, the rise against corrupt government. The rise against corrupt government. And sadly enough, those that have led on Cybertron really come more from the consumer goods ranks, the Autobot ranks, and they really held down in a lot of the continuities the Decepticons. And while we tend to see the Decepticons as the bad guys, there's a big argument for them really just being radicalists and revolutionaries seeking to elevate their social standing and social position. The caste system, the class system, the whole functionalist way of doing things, the whole, we're going to use the military hardware bots for our own entertainment and amusement as gladiators. All of that was wrong. It's a dark history on Cybertron, and rising up against such tyranny is indeed quite heroic, even if you only lived long enough to see yourself turn into the villain. Rising up against corrupt government and tyranny, that takes the number 4 slot. Number 3 takes us to the G1 Marvel Comics. I'm not sure if it's the UK one or that part of the run, or if it was just the North American run, but it's when Zarak takes on Unicron. So of course Zarak was kind of going through an identity crisis and whatnot, wondering, what his actual role is in the war. It's not even his war. He's highly flawed, but he kind of gets over himself to be Lord Zarak, and he runs into the fray with the rest of the Decepticons. He starts attacking Zarak's ankle, foot, hand, toe, something like that. Zarak is doing his best to fight against Unicron. Unicron goes with his fire breath and basically destroys Zarak and Scorponok, not for nothing. Optimus stands over his broken, burned up, destroyed body, and in his final moments he says to Zarak, "You did good. You did good. In your final moments, you did good. And you know what? Even if you were only a good guy for a few seconds, if you'd done one good thing, maybe that's just enough to make you memorable." At least that's the way it is for Zarak, because enough voters felt that he was a good Decepticon that he was able to take the number 3 slot. Number 2 takes us to the 5 Faces of Darkness, and that one time when Blitzwing tried to warn everyone about the Quintessons. So Blitzwing had a history with the Quintessons. I really feel like we were going to have more of that story explored through, say, season 4, had it actually happened. And I know that the whole idea originally was to have Octane be in the role. Why it got switched to Blitzwing, I'm not sure. But basically, Blitzwing knows the Quintessons are coming and learns some of their plan and realizes that the Quintessons actually don't have a Decepticon matrix at all. And he goes and he basically tries to tell Galvatron, like, there's no Decepticon matrix. The Quintessons are going to betray us. They're bad dudes. And Galvatron, like, basically berates him and beats him and says, "I don't believe you." And Blitzwing is sort of like, man, like, bad things are going to happen. Nobody knows what's coming. So then he goes and he tells the Autobots. And he says, "I'm not an Autobot. I'm not a good guy. But man, this is bigger than all of us." In fact, he actually ends up getting exiled, I guess you could say, and becomes like an island unto himself. He doesn't identify as a good guy as an Autobot. But when Galvatron learns that he went and warned the Autobots about the Quintessons, Galvatron basically banishes him from the Decepticons. You're not a Decepticon, you're not an Autobot, you're a man living on an island surrounded by an ocean, all by your lonesome. It's a good thing that you're a cool guy by the name of Blitzwing. But Blitzwing, trying to warn everyone about the Quintessons for right or wrong, takes the number 2 slot. And here we are, tippy top number 1. And number 1 thing. Number 1, this time that the Decepticons were good guys, takes us to a specific Decepticon, takes us to Unicron Trilogy and Starscream's sacrifice and battling Unicron. We talked about this. It's funny. When we did the top 10 Decepticons who have been heroic, and we were focusing on the characters, if this guy wasn't number 1, he was well up there then as well. But this is about the action. Starscream probably knew that his end was coming. Like, he couldn't actually, I guess, compete against Unicron, but he knew that in trying to do so, he would bolster Megatron and Optimus to work together, because Unicron was a bigger threat than either of them. Unicron was a bigger threat than him. This was bigger than all of us, and Starscream realized that. Starscream tried to make amends for his past misdoings in a number of ways, but at the very end, when it really counted, he made the ultimate sacrifice to bring 2 longtime enemies together to take out a threat that was big enough to, I guess, possibly injure, possibly destroy not only a world, but the entire galaxy, maybe the universe. Who knows how far-reaching the heroics of Armada Starscream truly are. Armada Starscream and his self-sacrifice against Unicron takes the number 1 slot. Man, 10 down to 1 once again, and you know what? Not for nothing, there were a lot of other votes. What about the time that the Decepticons fought a cosmic Starscream? I don't remember this, and I don't know what continuity it's from, but it was a vote that came in. What about when Springer and Razorclaw worked together in, like, Daniel's dream to save a princess? I think that's episode Nightmare Planet. I believe it's what it's called. Let's see. Prime Megatron helping Optimus Prime to fend off the Unicron avatars in Transformers Prime. Signing the Pax Cybertronia to bring peace. Skybite saving an entire building full of people and getting recognized as a hero. I'm finding it very strange to be recognized as a hero. Optimus Prime and Megatron both seeing Dark of the Moon Sentinel Prime as an enemy, although we all know that that didn't exactly bring peace to Optimus and Megatron. What about this? During the Machinima series, to kind of destroy the Matrix of Conquest, of Chaos, I can't remember which one it's called now. I want to say Conquest. But like, he basically gets destroyed by the Requiem Blaster to accomplish that, right? Let's see. What about when Thundercracker stopped New York from being nuked at the end of All Hail Megatron? What about when Devastator stops a drill from drilling into the core of Earth in the episode The Core? What about the time when Bulkhead and Breakdown work together in Transformers Prime? What about Skywarp's dog? I don't remember Skywarp's dog. Call of the Primitives, when they had to work together against Tordon, or try to work together against Tordon. What about... Oh, what about this? Ravage's close bond relationship with Soundwave when he was homeless and insane in IDW Comics. Right up to the end of Ravage, who died a hero, really, from my understanding. What about Scourge in Time Wars? I don't know the story, but I know bits and pieces of it. What about when the Decepticons revived Skyfire? We have Skyfire because they revived him out of the ice. Dreadwing giving the Forge to the Autobots. The Scavengers nursing Grimlock back to health and then befriending him. I think that's IDW as well. Thundercracker turning into a screenwriter with a pet dog named Buster. That and so many more times that the Decepticons showed that they can be kind, that they can be nice, that they can be good, that they can be heroes. Even at the most unlikeliest of situations. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link, check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through spring, or of course hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. While you're at it, hit the subscribe button, stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel, and don't forget, not for a moment, not for a second, that somehow, someway, each and every single solitary day, you right there, you do make a difference in the world, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way, right here, inside the videos.